Hey, good evening. It is Tuesday, March 7th, 2023, 6:30 p.m. This is the time and place for the committee meeting for the Northern Lebanon School District Board of Directors. I call this meeting to order. We are meeting as a committee of the whole tonight, as we typically do. First order of the agenda for tonight is presentations. I believe we have 3 presentations for this evening. We'll start with Dr. Kuiper.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me back again. In a moment here, Peck is going to get some stuff up. This is kind of a continuation of the last time I was in front of you, where we discussed some fall participation numbers, team GPA, things of that nature. This is simply a continuation into the winter here. As you can see, I broke them down again across the top row there. We only had 4 real PIAA sports to kind of choose from here. But again, 125 total participants. In the fall, we were at about 26% participation, but that's over 7 sports. This is down a little bit, 18% out of the 700 students we have enrolled, grades 9 through 12. And when I get to the next slide here in a moment, you'll see kind of a breakdown that I did amongst Lebanon County schools. On the bottom there, winter team GPAs, girls or boys basketball, 3.4. Girls basketball not far behind. But again, I think another strong indication, all teams over a 3.0. And really love that that boys basketball 3.4. They did get their second win of the year. Yes. A couple people said that to me. They were 1-21, FYI, if you're not picking up on that. Sorry. Yeah. Can we go to the second slide then, Tyler? Thank you. Mr. Nam, you had kind of questioned, well, what does this look like across Lebanon County? So hopefully you see challenge accepted. I got results from everyone except Lebanon. And you know, what's difficult is if you look at Cedar Crest and you look at Palmyra, 1,600 and 1,100, we're not competing numbers wise with them in terms of total number of students, as we're at 700. But if you look, you know, at Anvil at 690, Elko at 741, us at 700, there's the breakdown of their participation in the fall. I would say, quite honestly, folks, I don't think we're that far off. I mean, with 25% participation in the fall. In the winter, we actually have the second highest participation amongst percentage-wise Lebanon County schools, which I believe is incredibly favorable. Even if I point out for Anvil, the 213, they had 70 kids on their football team. You know, we were around 30 when we finished the year. So, you know, Elko had a very big football team. Palmyra and Cedar Crest, they just kind of have a bigger draw. But again, Cedar Crest was 21% participation. We were at 25% just for our athletics. So again, I believe that's favorable. It's certainly not an end point for us where we want to be, but we want to continue to grow and get the participation up even higher. Can we go to the third one, Tyler? Thank you. Also, Mr. Nam, you had asked co-curricular. What does that look like across the county as well? So people did provide some information. There are some gaps up there, and I do apologize for that. I didn't get firm numbers. I would say, you know, in terms of this, between the choir, chorus, band, fall play, spring musical, are our numbers great in comparison? Not great. But I don't think terrible, again, given our school size. And, you know, with some of these schools, what is difficult, some of these schools utilize their chorus, their band, things of that nature as a accredited course within their curriculum. So I know even the school that I came from, we called it music performance, but it was broken up in between 3 different performance types. So you, in essence, could take 3 different things within music performance and get 0.33 credit, which equaled then ultimately 1 credit for the entirety of the school year. if that's the route that you chose. When I look at the bottom here, through February 2023, 427 total students participated in something between the fall and the winter. And that does include the co-curricular as well. So that puts us at 61% of our student body at some point in the fall or winter participated in something. Of, at least for extracurricular, there's 46 crossovers there. So if we actually add the 46 to the 427, that actually takes our participation up. If we count the dual, actually takes us up to 67% participation in something, again, between fall and winter. When I look at that, again, not an endpoint, but that's favorable to me. But again, as I reiterated earlier, that means that our work's not done. And now we have to continue to grow and continue to get kids out and participating. So any questions on any of this?
Thank you for pulling that together. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was a nice little education for myself as well.
Yeah.
Just one other note, as spring sports have started, winter sports are still going for a few. Just to highlight, Carter Cheslock will be competing at states next week, at Bucknell. He will be swimming on Thursday, and Sam Wolford and Aaron Seidel have both qualified for wrestling for states. They will be competing in rounds 1 and 2 on Thursday. If they advance to the quarterfinals, that will be on Friday. Semifinals Friday night. If they make it to the medal round, that will be held on Saturday. So just an FYI for everyone of their advancement as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? Great. Thank you, Dr. Trevor. Appreciate it. Second presentation for this evening is Mrs. Bruce.
Dr. Kuiper's going to show me up because I had to bring notes up to talk, but that's okay. Gary had asked if we could just do a quick social media update. One of the goals this year has really been to kind of focus on how we're presenting, information to families, community connections, and then also just kind of celebrating positive things happening here. But in order for us really to take a good look at how we're doing social media, I know data speaks. So I wanted to share some information with you. Tyler, thank you. I know that's kind of a hard slide to see, so I'm just going to recap it quickly. One thing I thought was important for us to take a look at was, are we putting the eggs in the correct basket? Should we be focusing on social media? I know the long range plan was developed kind of in the height of COVID, but if you take a look at this, the average American is still spending over 2 hours a day on social media platforms. So I think it's going to behoove us to continue this, fight to make sure. I know probably nobody here because you don't have enough time for that, but those are the statistics right now that the average American is spending over 2 hours a day on social media. And I would venture to guess that because this is kind of a longitudinal study and it's looking at multiple age levels, younger kids would be higher. But truthfully, for our purposes of social media, we're going to be looking at families. Tyler, you can go to the next one. Yeah. So then the next question I thought was important for us to take a look at is, are we focusing our social media on the correct platforms? So I know that, among the middle school, high school crowd, probably Facebook is not the number one thing anymore. I think that was a while ago. However, if you look at this data, again, this is not specific to middle school, high school. I know it's very tiny. I'll get you guys the slide so you can see it. Okay, good. It did not look this tiny on my screen, I promise you. The number one platform based upon this data is actually YouTube, followed second by Facebook. So I think we are still in the right target of making sure that our Facebook page, and then you can kind of see after that, they look at Instagram, they look at Snapchat, things like that. So I just kind of wanted to share some of this as to why we're sticking with making sure our Facebook pages and Instagram and Twitter are updated and not kind of morphing into something that maybe the middle school, high schoolers are using, but none of us have any idea what that is. Okay. So the next kind of question is, where are we going? Gary gave us a big task of looking at social media as a whole for the district, but then also kind of personalizing it. And Kirk has been a big help. We've had a lot of conversations to make sure that we have safeguards in place. Tyler, you can go to the next one. Yep. So we started the process of this, and I just kind of wanted to hit 4 different main points tonight. The first one is that Kirk has created a new Northern Lebanon Elementary social media page. It is not active yet. We're going to be activating that in the next couple of months. We're going to actually start posting on that page before the end of this school year. And the thought process there is I want our families to kind of get used to finding their information there before summer hits, so probably after Easter break is when we're going to start kind of getting that going. So end of April through May, we're going to cross post. So things that are posted on Lickdale's page will also be posted on the new Northern Lebanon Elementary page. And we're going to kind of direct people back and forth to that. The ultimate goal then is to, by the end of next school year, so if I'm standing here in like a year, then we'd like to have 4 main district pages. And only 4. And I realize other booster clubs will be different but not kind of run by the school district. So the ones that we're looking at are a high school, middle school page, an elementary page, one for athletics, and then one that's for the district. The other piece is that this is not an island. Social media, good things are happening all over the place in all classrooms and all levels. And so Gary had the idea to kind of have some committee work help with the social media updates. And so that's something we're going to look into over the next couple of months. And when I come back, whether it's in 6 months or a year to give a social media update, I can share a little bit more about how our committees are getting involved with that. And then last but not least, you are looking right here at a screenshot of a platform called Buffer. Now, this allows us to post to multiple things at one time. And my favorite feature of this is we can schedule posts out. So for example, I started using this and we have a post scheduled to go out tomorrow evening. Sometimes it's hard. I feel like Leanne, Kelly, Gary, Kirk, everybody's working Brad all the time. But if you can't get on and post something in an evening or in a morning because you have family stuff, this is a service that will allow us to do that. So I can schedule posts. Anybody really who's on one of the committees can schedule things to go out at a certain time. So if we have weather delays or, we have our senior citizen luncheon coming up, we can schedule posts well in advance to go out at different benchmarks kind of along the way so that we don't forget anything. And if somebody's on vacation, they can pre-schedule them to go out. And I'm hoping that something like that really helps us connect better with our community. Yeah, so this one actually, you can post to LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all in one place. Obviously, Twitter is a little bit trickier because they have a limited number of characters, but you can customize it and schedule them all out. Yep, so it will hit multiple platforms. Questions?
Have we gotten any feedback from the public on our social media outreach this year? Positive, negative?
Truthfully, I haven't heard anything either way. I will tell you that's a question I know that we're going to ask when we have committee meetings. Has anybody heard anything that hasn't maybe gotten to the central office?
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think another focal point talked about is establishing a system where Lauren will be able to do a post that will go out to those different outlets, which is great. But part of the power of social media is having a network of other folks that, whatever it is, retweet, or I don't know what you call it in Facebook. What do you call it in Facebook? Share. Okay. And help get that message out. And internally, we've been doing it. I think probably the best job we've ever done within the world of athletics. Different people see things. We even have a student right now on the Twitter world that is sharing things, and then we're retweeting, or vice versa. I think we have a new Lauren's meeting with NL Bulletin, the Northern London Bulletin. If you haven't seen that, it's a local website now that is doing news within the world of Northern Lebanon, and it looks like it's primarily just that. And they just did an article on the band. They just did an article on the musical, the day where the kids came. So she's meeting with them next week too, to talk about how we can utilize them and make sure they're getting the information we want to get out. So I don't know a lot about social media, but I think I love the idea of being able to hit multiple places all in one shot. I think that'll help us. And we talked about it within our climate committee, actually a group that wants to help with communication as well. So something to build on there as well. But Lauren's done all the legwork and had all the conversations and meetings along with Kirk. Because Kirk sits there and says, well, you can't do that because it's going to break our privacy, whatever. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
I got one question along the same lines. WVIK, the YouTube channel, what's that primarily used for? I know that you mentioned a lot of Facebook and
Yeah, it's mostly used for our kids that do our kind of announcements. They've done sports previews. They'll do every now and then, they'll just do the announcements through there in the morning. They'll do interviews with kids for different reasons. I know last year they did it, although I haven't seen it this year. I'll have to look and see. They did a musical one last year with interviewed Ariana Day last year. It's done through a class primarily. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's a regularly scheduled thing. It's kind of, I think, tasked to the kids to come up with ideas and then do the interviews. Some of them are not the quality of what you'd see on on TV news, but they can be entertaining. But I don't know that we have a formalized plan. I think in the past we might have had a little more, but the kids kind of dictate it.
Yeah, I every now and then I catch those videos and I like a lot of them, but sometimes I'm unsure if it gets some oversight before it's posted.
Okay.
I'm just one of my things maybe someone would take a look at sometimes before it's broadcasted.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Great. Anything else? Okay. Third presentation of the slide is Crabtree Rohrbaugh.
Good to see everybody again. So we're going to kind of give an update of what we've been up to since the last time we saw you. And that was basically when we had the direction to go with option 4A. So we've kind of been developing that option, we've had multiple meetings with the administration. Some of our consultants we're bringing on board, Fidavia, and most of those have circulated around either development of what we know the new gym is going to be, or different facets of the school and the scope of work. But another main focus is trying to get it whittled down to something that the district can afford. So I'm going to let Sean kind of go through the slides of where we're at with, you kind of recognize this. It follows the same format we showed you last time of the scope of work. And then we'll talk about our next steps and overall schedule.
Thanks, Scott. So we're going to show you the scope of work and various slides, starting with graphically showing you where kind of the least intervention is, followed by moderates and heavy renovation areas. And lastly, of course, the new additions. So the slide that you see right now is, of course, the areas that were most recently added onto this building. So in the bottom left corner, that's the tech ed and ag area. There's no work planned in that area whatsoever. And then the top left corner is what will be the 7th and 8th grade wing of the building. That's receiving the work required for the HVAC replacement only. And the components that are related to that, such as like the ceilings needing to be replaced when you do the HVAC work. But beyond that, there's no additional scheduled work in those areas. Next slide is the minor renovations area. This is the kind of the bulk of the existing building. So these renovations include those items that are, kind of necessary on a kind of here and there as needed basis. Maybe certain doors need to replace or hardware needs to replace, and painting would be included in that too, but no other significant renovations or changes to those areas. Step up from there is what we're calling the moderate renovations. So these are areas that while the layout is generally staying the same, they will be receiving further upgrades in addition to the minor renovations previously listed, additionally including things like additional finishes, maybe flooring, casework, things like that, but still sticking with the layouts as those rooms are currently arranged. So that includes spaces such as the Ag Lab on the plan left side, FCS Lab up at the top, the auditorium and the music suite, all getting the moderate renovation areas, as well as the existing high school locker rooms on either side of the existing main gymnasium. And then this also includes all of the gang toilet or multi-use toilet rooms throughout the building. Next slide. Major renovation areas include, of course, the science labs is one of the primary spaces that we're trying to hit with that. Those spaces in the science labs are being reconfigured so that the arrangement between the classroom areas and the lab areas of those rooms is improved. We're also doing heavy renovations in the existing locker rooms for the middle school, which is being converted to new kitchens. So it's going to be a combined kitchen and cafeteria for all levels of the facility, with the cafeteria being located in the current middle school gymnasium adjacent to it. So to accommodate that new kitchen space, there's going to be some pretty heavy renovation to totally reconfigure that area of the building. Just planned south of that would be what is currently the kind of satellite kitchen for the middle school cafeteria. That's also getting reconfigured to accommodate the LGI space. So that was previously located just on the other side of the wall behind you. But in this scheme, we've moved it over to that kind of corner of the building. Other miscellaneous spaces include the nurses suite, the main entrance that's necessary to get some heavy renovation so that we can bring in the secure entrance that you're looking for at the front entrance. The current kitchen for the high school cafeteria would be converted into a new weight room. So the weight room is being relocated from its current location, kind of just across the hall to what is currently the high school kitchen. And then next to the addition space, kind of top right corner, we're going to convert a couple existing classrooms into part of the new locker room and team room space for the new gymnasium. Okay, next slide. I'm sorry. Large group instruction. So that gets, multiple classrooms into one space. And then the last slide for the scope is the new addition area. So this is where the new gymnasium is going with further space for the team room and locker rooms, kind of on the left side of the blue box. So you see the main gymnasium with the connection to the existing building, kind of in two directions. Just south of the gymnasium, running east-west is a corridor, and then we're also connecting southward toward the existing main gymnasium with corridor and facilities for toilets and concessions and so on. So that new addition is largely driven by the phys ed and athletics program. So putting that all together kind of results in a combined scope of work plan that you see here. So you can see how all of the different levels of renovation relate to one another. And then the next slide shows the actual kind of departmental layout of the building. So of course you have the 7th and 8th grade wing at the top left. Just to the right of that would be English and FCS. Kind of the middle corridor running east-west has the math and science, with the art corridor to the right of that, just around this area. That is the media center. The planned southmost corridor would have the world language and social studies, and the administrative wing and business labs on the south right corridor. Of course, we have the auditorium and the athletics and phys ed facilities furthest on the right.
In the previous slide, I thought there was a pink triangle in the bottom right corner that doesn't appear to be here. Am I confusing something? Not triangle, rectangle, pink rectangle in the bottom right
That's
corner.
what's being,
Yeah, so that's the existing, I guess you'd call it the mat room, or auxiliary gym. That would no longer be used in this scheme, so it's scheduled for demolition.
So we're gonna demolish part and then build other stuff. Can't we somehow repurpose that to use that space rather than demolish it?
For a couple reasons, I think what's driving this is the capacity of the main gymnasium. So we're adding a new gymnasium that gets the capacity that you need. And then we're kind of stepping up the other phys ed and gymnasium spaces, from there. That space that is currently that auxiliary gym would be very helpful from a parking standpoint outside the building. That would help, alleviate some of the parking and in relationship also, of course, to the football field and the field house. It's a valuable area for parking too.
That was a lot of, I mean, there's a couple of things. One, it's in horrible shape and would need major renovations, which would drive up a cost. Two, the parking, the way the parking, I wish we had that. I didn't tell you to put it on there was a,
Go to the next slide.
if you kind of go back to, well, yeah, but we used to have one with the,
One more.
oh, okay, there we go. That part not sticking out makes a big difference in the way our parking lot lines up and our access then also down to the athletic fields, the turf field, the football field, the field house. Was a consideration, and frankly, we don't have a purpose for it. I mean, we can always use space. We can always probably come up with something, but there would be no designated purpose. And right now, we have additional space than what I think we even have some empty classrooms right now programmatically in what we do have already. If I'm not mistaken, Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I mean, we did talk about it because I was curious about the savings, but it's only 200 some thousand to get rid of it actually, and then put the parking in.
I'm just thinking, couldn't that space somehow be utilized by some of the arts that are also down in that wing? And also in reality, how many parking spaces are we going to gain by demolishing that?
Again, we don't, well, I will tell you that we still don't have enough. I forget what the number was when we had it laid out the other way. Do you guys remember? 30, 40.
Yeah, it has the parking counts on it. One more slide.
The other benefit is, I mean, just the traffic flow, which is a huge challenge today. I think cutting that off improves that dramatically.
Yeah, vision with that auxiliary kind of leaves a triangle right next to it that I think causing a lot of the problems with the traffic. With the auxiliary gym involved, we can kind of bring a parent drop off right next to the left of the building. Allow that just to be parking and not so various different traffic flows interweaving.
And I think one of the biggest factors, once again, is that cost piece. as Dr. Messer mentioned, it's in pretty bad shape, but the HVAC system there is basically at the end of its useful life. So if you kept that, in order, you'd have to basically eliminate something else in order to upgrade that. Or if you wanted it to sit there and not upgrade the HVAC, then you got to deal with the maintenance over the years. So I think that's probably the biggest pro and con is just the level of renovation it would take to keep it. But certainly something we can investigate further.
Just out of curiosity, I noticed that you had as a minor revision, the current middle school gym, and we're switching it over to a cafeteria. I'm just curious what you're envisioning. How is that a minor renovation?
Sure. I think and we've been back and forth about this with the admin team and how much do we do there. And once again, this is always a balance of cost and priority. And so this was one of the things I said, all right, if we can keep that flooring in the space like it is and still make it a cafeteria, let's save money there so that we can spend something that's a higher priority. So we've been back and forth. Do we put a new floor in there? Do we leave it like it is? Is it become more of a multi-purpose space that even if in push came to shove, you had some sort of tournament here, you could still use it. But I think from a volume standpoint, really, there's not, other than the flooring, the space is a nice big open space is what you want for a cafeteria. And that's similar to your existing cafeteria, converting that to the mat room. So to do that, you're really looking to, one of the things that we're also doing is replacing all the windows that are not thermally broken and non-insulated. So we'd be replacing the windows on that wall. But other than that, you're going to throw some mats down on it. Not much work needs to be done in there. So that's the thinking there. We could certainly do more, but on the priority level of things, it was a little bit further down.
Okay, thank you. Director Williams, you had something?
Well, I just for clarification, so where the mat room is currently, the one that's the building that's being proposed to be demolished.
Sure.
Where are those activities going to go? Is that all going to the new auxiliary gym? Is that where it's headed, or?
That will go to the new auxiliary gym, which is the former cafeteria, high school cafeteria.
Okay.
And that will be, we're planning on a mat floor, essentially, that would stay that way. Wrestling will use it. We thought cheerleaders would be able to use it. We thought any programs that, like, if we have a yoga club or whatever, that anything that would involve something like that they'd be able, or even teams to stretch prior to, a cross country team to stretch prior to going out. But it would be a wrestling mat type of surface. No basketball nets or anything like that in there.
So the last piece of this, of course, is the site development. We're engaging STECBEC as we speak and working through that, and going to be meeting with the township in the near future here to try to hone in on the scope of work. We're trying to keep as much of the existing site as it is as possible. We'll see where we get with that with the township, but essentially, as Sean mentioned, reconfiguring that parking lot in the rear to accommodate that new addition and the improved circulation there, but also looking at the front of the building to try to get a better area to do bus traffic. So 20 buses at the front there in a chevron configuration. After hours, that could still be used for event parking. You can park 2 cars for every bus spot. So we're not going to, so from an event standpoint, you don't lose too many spaces up there, but having that, once again, that improved circulation, trying to get these designated areas as best we can with the limited site area. Any questions on the site?
Maybe you mentioned it earlier, but how many parking spots did we have?
It was 411, somewhere in that range. And that parking count at the bottom does not account for those 40 parking spaces that we can get in that bus chevron for event parking. So some of our next steps, as I mentioned before, a lot of this has been about how do we build this project in a way that it meets the budget and the district's financial capabilities. That's going to continue. We've still got some work to do on that. So some of the ways that we're trying to make sure that gets achieved while still trying to make sure we hit as many of your high priorities as possible is to incorporate alternate bids. So if you remember on the elementary school, we had a series of optional costs, whether it was added to the budget or taken away. So we'll probably incorporate a lot of deduct alternates, and some of that might include some of the scope that we've talked about already. But that's a way we're working with Fidavia to kind of refine that budget and see where we need to be. And then once again, kind of hedge our bet with those deduct alternates to make sure that when we receive bids and when we have the final pricing, that it's within the budget. So that's something that we're working on. As far as schedule, once again, we've been hard at work. We're kind of at a spot where we're going to take it to the next level, develop some exterior elevation massing concepts, start meeting with the teachers on the layouts of some of the spaces we're reconfiguring and working on those interior layouts. Our consultants are now engaged. Of course, big piece of this is HVAC, so they're going to start doing their design work now that we have a defined scope. So the goal, and of course, engage civil and work with the township, the municipality, see what we have to do on that end. The goal will be in the August-September timeframe to be releasing for bids, with receipt of bids in the October timeframe, and look for award of bids in October. Any other questions for us? Of course, like the elementary school, we'll be here, updating you along the way with the progress.
Great. Thank you, Scott, Sean. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Okay, we'll move to public comment this evening. We did have indication from one member of the public that they were intending to speak tonight, but I do not see them here. So we will invite them to the board meeting next week to speak. So with that, there is no public comment for this evening. We'll just move on to the rest of the agenda. Dr. Messinger.
Yeah, pardon me. 5.1 through 5.3 are our normal items that we always have for you. Under item 6, we need to nominate someone to serve on the IU board for a 3-year term. Director Murray is currently serving that capacity. I guess we should probably ask you, maybe if you're interested, we still have to nominate, but you want to get nominations there, Director?
I'd be happy to have somebody else step into that role if they would like to. It has certainly been a highlight of being on the Northern Lebanon board. I have thoroughly enjoyed being a part of the IU board. I would happily do it again, but I'd be happy to pass it on to somebody else. It's a great opportunity to network with the other board members across Lebanon and Lancaster. They have great snacks. They reimburse you your mileage. And I don't ever mind the drive to Lancaster. So, and it's good to keep up with what's going on in the IU. It's really a fantastic organization that does a lot for our most vulnerable children. So it's been a joy and a privilege to be a part of it. So I would encourage anybody who wants to be a part of it to do that, but I certainly would be happy to continue to do it as well.
Great. Thank you, Director Murray. Is there anyone else that is interested in filling that role for the coming year? Okay, is there a nomination for Director Murray then? And we'll just put it on the agenda for next week.
Sure.
Yeah, I would nominate Director Murray, although I didn't realize Diefenbach Snacks were there.
Oh, well, anytime you want to donate.
Okay, great. Thank you. Is there a second? Great. Then we're not going to vote tonight. We'll vote next week. But thank you, Director Murray. Appreciate that. We'll put you on the agenda for next.
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, building and grounds.
Yeah, there's just one. I think the final, well, at least certainly the final big one, but the moment we've all been waiting for, at least on the high school side, the airport road revisions that the township with the sidewalk that had requiring us, and we'll still have some pricing coming or another idea actually for the elementary side that we're still working on. But this is that final number that we had to get to do the sidewalk. Part of the problem initially, as they looked at this, was the water line, where they thought the water line was, is not where the water line is. And therefore we had to make some additional adjustments to it. But we promised the township. And so this is gonna put a nice sidewalk along Airport Road, at least down a little past the baseball field for us. And that's it came to a little over $60,000 in that. We did not, don't expect to at this point, get to the end of our contingency for the field house, which is good. Some days it feels like you have a ton, but a lot of times they're relatively small in number. So I think that's good. And the contingency amount is, I don't know if that's on. If not, we'll get that to you, but just so you get an update, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And what, can you tell me what we're at there?
Looks like the remaining contingency is 185,940.
Yeah, we started with 272,755. So, that came out pretty good, but this one I do think it will look nice down there, but, so that's that one. Any questions on that one?
I have a question. If I remember correctly, and this could be wrong, but I thought that the township was originally asking us to make changes, additions, improvements that were adding up to about 250,000. Is that correct?
No, I don't, well,
With sidewalk and
let me-
lights and
you're
stuff that we were trying,
over there.
there was some discrepancy of what we had said we
Yes,
would do. and
over there at the elementary. And
This is not that.
no, this is
okay,
this side.
Oh,
This is-
so we're still possibly looking at 250,000.
we are, yeah, potentially on that side. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
We don't know what that, no, I mean, the update on that side, not to, confuse the two, but the update on that side is the people that did the work for Lobar don't want to touch it.
Yes.
They don't want to extend down through. So we proposed to the township, and I don't think we offered 200,000. No, it was less than that. We proposed to the township, we're waiting to hear that the money that was estimated initially to do it, before they realized that there were so many problems, that we would give the township that dollar amount. And then when they do the road work down there, then they can use that to do the sidewalk. So we're waiting to hear back on that proposal.
Okay, so this change orders for the school side, that
Yes.
250,000 is on the other side,
Elementary side.
on the neighborhood
You
side.
got it.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Okay. Item 8, extracurricular spring musical. I had this available, and Director Bucks and Director England took a look at it, the Adams Family School edition that was proposed. And after taking a look, I think Director England wanted to talk a little bit about his thoughts on it.
Sure. So I think messaging is very important. And when NL promotes values such as respect, integrity, healthy relationships, loyalty, and honor, there's an assumed expectation that we as a district are consistent by ensuring that what we approve aligns with these stated goals for our students. After reading through the Adams Family script, it was very difficult to find anything that supports what I believe NLSD strives to embrace. In exchange for crude humor, the audience is subjected to repeated sexual innuendo, dark themes, and mocking of death, to name a few of the negative elements. I have a strong conviction that what we permit carries the same weight as what we promote. And it is clear that if we approve this musical, we will be sending a mixed message to our district, causing any objective observer to question if we truly support the values we claim to emulate. One of the district goals this year is to improve the culture at NL. Unfortunately, this musical, in my opinion, does the opposite. Therefore, I cannot in good conscience support the approval of this musical.
Thank you, Director England.
The only other one I think looked at it was Director Bucks. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I did read it. I read it as a lighthearted fictional story. I was not taken aback by the story as Director England was. There are some innuendos in there that were recommended to be changed by the musical director. There were some others that to me didn't seem out of the ordinary from what we've seen in any other modern day musicals. So they didn't strike me as too much. The edition that is proposed is the school edition. So it has been written for a school format setting. So all of the themes have already been kind of tamed down. So in short, I think it isn't the Wednesday like a popular show or something. I haven't seen it, but I've seen
Yeah.
like advertisements. So it seems as though this fits with like pop culture of the day. But one of the themes I took away was kids growing up and falling in love and a parent's struggle with that. So that's kind of what I related to. And then there's jokes in the midst of that. So that was my take on it. But there's certainly, I encourage anybody that's interested to read the script or read the summary that is posted.
Yeah, and I have it here again tonight. If anyone, we're not voting on anything tonight, and I know no one else probably can say much because they haven't maybe maybe read the synopsis, but not the looked at the play. So if you want to borrow it for a day or two, let me know. And if other people will get it from one person to the next. But it's here for you. Just holler at the end.
Great. Thank you for the discussion. We will move item 8.1 to the discussion agenda for next week. I would like to review the script if we could. I guess the question I have is if we vote on it next week and if the board does not approve it, does the director have a second option that she's prepared to put for approval?
I spoke to her about it. They don't feel there's a time crunch. They actually proposed this knowing that it's not the typical style that they do, and they proposed it early just in case that they would have time to select another.
Okay. Great. Okay, thanks. Any other discussion on that item? We'll discuss it again next week. And if anyone would like to review the script after me, just let me know and I'll figure out a way to get it to you.
I would like to.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, 8.2.
Yeah, just a list of any updates for updated spring coaches list, which started on Monday, yesterday. Yeah. And they're outside, which is great. Curriculum, we have several policies for final adoption and 2 policies for tentative adoption. The school calendar is there. I'm going to tell you that the big change, which created some other small changes, nothing, I think for the most part, the typical school calendar is we were able to keep, but the big change is we moved the opening day to the Tuesday after Labor Day, which buys us an additional week of time. I think we're going to need it. I think we're going to be running around. You're going to see some tired, crazy looking people trying to make sure we're ready to go. And but that extra week, I think, is going to help us. So that's the big change. Take a look at that. Holler this week if you have questions about it. But that'll be the big one. Any questions about that yet so far? Okay. Item 10.1 substitute list revised. 10.2, we have Laura Weiss serving as a mentor for Heather Brubaker. 10.3, tenure to Mr. Oram. A few retirements listed for you there. I'm sorry, resignations listed for you there. Some custodians. We're going to get back to work on looking for custodians and a retirement. And we also have a retirement in our pupil services department. And we did interviews and internal interviews, and we're going to redesignate Mrs. Bevins from East Hanover to work with Kelly in pupil services. I heard it was her dream job, except she was concerned about working with you. She was good. Okay. All right. So that rumor is not true. So the redesignation there. So she'll begin that on July 1st. Any questions about any of those?
I have a question. And it doesn't have to happen tonight, but maybe tonight or next week. Could we give the public kind of a short summary of where we will be in July and August with the elementary building
Yeah.
and what needs to happen, like what we are depending on falling into place as far as getting stuff shipped?
Yeah.
Because people are asking me, is the elementary really going to open? Apparently there's rumors it's not going to. And I said, well, to my knowledge, this is what I know. So could we just talk about that in a actual meeting so that everybody knows and
Absolutely.
we can clear up the
Yep,
rumors?
we'll do a building update.
Great, thank you.
Great suggestion. Before we move to the information, having reviewed the agenda, are there any other items that directors feel need to be moved to discussion for next week? Okay, hearing none.
Okay. Last but not least, we did Officer Lauver actually did an airport road pedestrian traffic study. So we could determine our walkers for the new building and as we, realign here. And basically you can take a look at that. He did a nice job with it. It's pretty clearly marked. There's just some concerns along Airport Road. Technically, you could walk from Fredericksburg. It's within the distance, but there's some concerns there with traffic. That one intersection that's funky down there is not so safe. You get the tractor trailers that go through. So we do believe there is a safe walking distance place. There's places that are safe, but at the same time, we feel like we have to stop before the end of airport there. So that's all outlined for you, just an informational thing to look at.
I read through that quickly and it sparked a question in me. I did not realize that you have to apply to get something as a school zone and the speed limit reduced. I think that makes sense, good sense that we try to do that. So to slow cars down if we're going to have additional walkers.
I had a similar question. I thought when we were doing all the traffic studies, it was determined that a school zone wasn't necessary, but then I saw the same thing and I sort of have the same opinion. I think it would make a lot of sense to have that be a school zone. I would like to explore that more to see if that's something we can do. I was under the impression at the time that it was sort of the book was closed and the traffic study indicated that it wasn't necessary, but it's certainly something I think we should pursue. And a crosswalk. I saw that he had recommended a crosswalk as well. I
Yeah.
think that's a good idea.
I guess my question is, why would we not do that? Is there community pushback against school zones and reduced speed limit, or why?
I haven't had an
Why would you
internal
not wanna make it
discussion
safer?
that we weren't interested in it, but you may have talked often. No, I don't think we are. I don't think that we are not. I think we probably took the same mentality you did, because sometimes those studies, if they say no, then you can't do it. Never did we consciously say, well, let's not pursue a school zone. So, we can see what we can find out and see if they'll let us.
Yeah,
do
I think
something and
for
what
our
the cost would
kids
be.
that it makes sense to pursue it.
Sure.
Yeah, especially since we're talking about two neighborhoods where kids will be walking to and from school to both schools. I just think to me, it's also a no-brainer. We should explore it if it's still an option. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, and that's it.
Great. Okay, thank you. Before we adjourn, I just wanted to remind everyone that next Tuesday at 5 o'clock, we're planning an executive session for a workshop with the solicitor. Brooke is going to be talking about emerging legal issues. So we will be learning and discussing some of those things at 5 o'clock next Tuesday. I wanted to make sure that we at least have a majority of the board that's able to be there. So by a show of hands, do you think you'll be able to make the 5 o'clock workshop? Okay, so looks like we do have 6. So we'll proceed 7. We'll proceed with the workshop. And for those that aren't able to attend, just touch base with us and we'll try to give you a summary of it. So Brooke, does that sound good to you?
That's perfect. And I'll have handouts for everybody who misses things.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so that'll be 5 o'clock next Tuesday. Anything else for this evening before we adjourn? Okay, hearing none, this committee meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.